Good afternoon, everybody. We all hope that you have a really wonderful weekend. To hope my colleagues and Professor Carolina uh, have a beautiful day with their families and relatives as well. So, so let's go to the core of this presentation. Basically, uh, this is a Model 6 called a systematic approach to instructional design. This time, this model will be hosted by my master, Mauricio Arteaga, and me, Jorge Enrique Rodriguez. And as I mentioned, we're going to be the host of this model during this following week. So we hope that you can post your valuable comments in this forum. Okay, so let's begin. Before we get to the process of what to do in this model, I would like to give a quick definition of what is instructional design. So instructional design is defined as a systematic process employed to develop education and training program in a consistent and reliable environment, right? Also, it's defined as a framework to develop modules and lessons, all right? And in terms of instructional design, there is a certain process that needs to be followed in order to make this successful. And as the first aspect stage to take into account for instructional design is to define what are going to be the instructional goals by the teacher. And that also applies for certain aspects of a research project in which you need to decide a goal. We all have a goal in terms of the research project. And how can we accomplish that? By conducting an analysis. By conducting an analysis, we're going to be able to identify the learner's profile and their needs in terms of their behavior and their learning process as well. Once we get to do that, we get to the stage of the design in which we start as choosing and selecting the most suitable materials to be implemented for the whole group of students based on the analysis established at first. Once we get to designing, we start getting the process of developing this by setting up certain steps that allows this material design or instructional design to be suitable for the students. Once we get to develop this, to go through all these three previous steps, we get to implement it. Once we get to implement the material and the method, we need to take into account all these three aspects before. How do we get to design this based on the analysis established firstly? Then we get to a stage of evaluation in which we are able to measure the effectiveness of instructional design in terms of the group of learners, how effective it was, and how the use of the materials implemented enabled the learner to become an active learner. All right, so let's begin here. Okay, now that you have a quick definition of instructional design, we will invite you to check on the Model 6 input video. Here, Professor Carolina established certain purposes in Model 6, which is identify the instructional models, evaluate the lesson and objectives to transform goals to performance-based objectives, and to elaborate need analysis to be applied in a real context of teaching. Alright, also here in this video, Professor Carolina defined and highlight the importance of instructional designs. In addition, there are also a chart that contains some important models in terms of the instructional design, which are going to be very important when, in order to gain information about this term. And finally, she explains performance-based objective, which is going to be also important in order to be an active part of the activities that are posted in this model. Once you get also in the model, in this input video, it's very important that you get to see the expert talks here, in which we recommend you strongly to check the interviews to Chris Ramazzoni and Mark Penguin, who give us a really important information in terms of the design of the instructional design concept. Right? This is something that is going to fulfill our learner conceptions. All right. So here you're also going to hit here on reactions. In this part of the model, you are going to post your first insights in terms of the input video and the expert talks that contains the 2 interviews that we mentioned before. Alright? And that way you're going to have a first stage in terms of constructing your definition and conception about instructional design. Once you get to do that, we'll recommend you to get to the readings that holds plenty of information that will be necessary for this model here. But personally, we recommend you 2 important readings here, well, core readings actually. Here, this is one of the readings, which is called Needs Analysis, a review of state of the art. This is a really important reading because it guides us to understand that needs analysis is something that is necessary in order to find the target needs, yes, and also the potential to be exploited among the learners, which lead us to set the objectives, to implement the resources, and to get to the final goal, which is the performance-based objective, right? This is the first reading in terms of needs analysis. And as you know, in the research project, this was also important because it helped us to, the needs analysis was like a first stage to know what the students needed in terms of our research question. Also, that's another reading, as you can see here, is about instructional design as well. Here, this reading defines the concept of instructional design, but also provides with the different models in terms of this, which was provided as well by Professor Carolina during the input video. You're going to find also some strategies and the process of developing instructional design in case you don't know what or how to implement an instructional design term. Right? Also, we're going to see the E-activity tool. This is obviously after you finish with the Model E-activities, Model 6 E-activities, readings, sorry. So here, once you get to the readings, you're going to start by E-activity 2. So this basically, let me show you here quickly. The E-activity 2, it's basically about writing a needs analysis. This is something that is not new for us because actually we're developing this in terms of a research project. We actually did it before, right? So here we're going to be able to analyze, design, develop, and implement. But as we said, writing a needs analysis is going to help us to have a complete map of the students' behavior and their learning process as well as their needs. Also, this part of the model suggests us to use some data collection methods, right? As you can see here, which are going to help us to see how we're going to implement this instructional design method, which is going to lead us to create a final teaching plan based on the needs analysis. All right, this is a writing that you need to. So we all suggest you to get through this part of the activity in terms of instructional designs, because everything starts by here, by the needs analysis. Also, we are going to invite you to get to activity number 3, and this activity, you also have to do some writing. Basically, what you have to create here is a rational, right? But it is important that you take these two aspects into account. How do you plan your course, your lesson objectives? Do you follow any specific procedure? What feature do you bear in mind when defining performance objective for a course of lesson? As you saw in the input video, as you can see in the input video, this is the 2 questions that also Professor Caroline established, and that's going to help us to develop our rational. So this activity 3, called transforming a goal from your lesson plan into a performance goal objective, right, is basically about selecting an objective that you have on your lesson plan or in your classroom context, and transform that into a performance-based objective. I have to correct this, is performance-based objective, right? In which we lead the learner to reach an optimal level in terms of the learning process, right? So here, and is basically, we need to develop a rational, right? In which we describe that process of turning that old goal or objective into a performance-based objective, right? And here, basically, it's one of the main objectives from the ISEL course, because as you can see through the tasks and assignments that we have with ISEL, is their main objective to turn us as teachers who are able to turn an objective into a performance-based objective. Okay, so here, once you get to finish with this, we will recommend you to get to the checklist model. Yes. So here, wait a second. Okay. So here, this is the checklist. This is going to help you to keep a track of what you're doing in this model. So as you can see, as soon as you start finishing with one of all these the aspects, the list of activities for this model, it will help you to keep a structure of what you're doing, or of a track of what you're supposed to do for this model. All right. Okay, I think this is all for model 6. We hope that you participate a lot in this model and help us to fulfill this topic with your valuable concepts. All right. So thank you very much, and you have a really good weekend.